Hello there, friends. All right, we're gonna get into my next poster here. These are the 4 I's. The 4 I's stand for include, interpret, imitate, and intrude. And I'll show you what it looks like if you were to go download this. It's a blue poster that I made. You can find these acronyms in lots of places too, not just thanksmorris.com. Okay, so when you're including the child's interests. Again, you're following their lead, and you're joining into their play. You know, I'm not going to bring out Mr. Potato Head if a child's already playing with dinosaurs because I want to work on body parts. You can work on that by including their interest in dinosaurs, and maybe they have multiple goals, so you just work on something else that day, you know? But always follow their lead. Set them up for success by including what they like, because what better to get them talking than something that they enjoy? Or talking or communicating, I should say, right? The next I stands for interpret. Okay, this one's huge. You want to interpret all communication attempts. And sometimes I know I have a tendency now, especially working with preschoolers, I sometimes probably over-interpret or, I interpret wrong. And I think sometimes I'm afraid to interpret because I don't want to interpret wrong. Maybe I think they're trying to say they want, they're hungry, but I don't know. Maybe they have to go potty and I don't want to get that one wrong. But you want to do your best and this is why that OWL, that observe, wait, and listen is so important, because then you get to know, their own communication styles. You're taking time to learn their world, so that way when you get to this interpreting part, it comes a little bit more naturally, and it takes time. It takes that rapport building, but you want to make sure that you're doing so, because especially when you have nonverbal children and individuals, it's really important to, again, let them know that they've been heard. So if you're interpreting their communication, they know you've been heard. And I always recast and say, oh, you want to eat? Oh, you want more ball? To let them know, oh, I get you. I get it, This is why I like to use books a lot in therapy, because you have a foundation. So if you read a story, then not always, but there's a chance that whatever they try to communicate to you pertains to that context you just set up with a book. This works especially well. I love using books with my apraxic students because it helps them be more successful when they're talking about the book, because I kind of have an idea of what they might be trying to communicate to me. Imitation, that's the 3rd I. Now, this is they're all my favorite, but imitation is so much fun. You imitate by following the child's lead and imitate what the child is doing and saying. Now, here's the key with imitation. I get so many children coming in, fresh 3-year-olds in the preschool program, that have goals for imitating me or imitating peers. Building imitation relies on you using all these other things, following their lead, including what they like. It starts with you imitating them. That's the best way I can put this. So rather than saying, no, do this, clap hands, do this, do whatever they're doing. Maybe they're just going like this. Then you make the same face. And then you get a mirror out and say, look, you doing it, I'm doing it. Maybe they're jumping up and down. So you better jump up and down. It doesn't matter. Just start by imitating them. And this is what I always say, and I'll tell you a little story here. Because when you start by imitating them, it becomes a game. So you're imitating them, then you can start throwing things in there. It works for actions, it works for vocalizations, it works for words. I had a little boy, we were starting on we were getting those first words just coming in. He was 3 at the time. And we were walking to my speech room together. Luckily, we had a little bit of a long walk to get to look at what was around us outside and talk about the weather. And so it was a lot of me narrating our actions. Oh, look, the slide. You like to go down the slide and things like that. Well, when I picked him up on this particular day, he was extremely vocal and was repetitively going. I think he was going, ah, ah. And we started walking in the first 5 seconds out the door to the speech room. He was doing that pretty repetitively. So I started imitating him and I went, ah, after every time he did it. And after about, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds to a minute of us just doing that, I started going, oh, to see if he would do it. And he didn't do it right away. It took me then repeating it, but he learned that I would imitate him. And then he started trying. I saw him kind of going, like figuring out where his mouth might go. So it's just things like that where if you start doing what they're doing, they realize, oh, you're paying attention to me. And then you get that reciprocal interaction. And again, it doesn't always happen on the first try. You got to keep doing these things. And so that imitation, again, is really important when you're following their lead and starting with imitating them versus trying to get them just to imitate you. The fourth I is intrude. Okay, so remember that wait time, that awkward wait time? Well, intrude sometimes for me can feel a little bit awkward. I think I've gotten used to it now, but sometimes children want to just be in solitary play. And so I know if I go push into a classroom to work with a specific child, or I bring them into the speech room, they might go straight to, the train set that's on the carpet and turn their back to me and start playing when I was going to play that with them, right? And so you want to just, again, this is why getting face-to-face is so important, because once you're face-to-face, you can intrude. And there's some really, really creative ways that we can intrude. And I'm going to do a video on specifically creative stupidity one of these days. And if you've heard me say that already, kudos to you. I do say it a lot. I love using what I call creative stupidity in my speech. It just basically means doing things, putting things in places that don't belong. So I'll take the toys, like if they're in solitary play with, again, the train, I might take one of the train pieces and put it on my head and show them, oh, where's the train piece? And that's weird because the train doesn't go on my head. And so they might try to take it off, but already I've intruded and I've engaged a little bit with them. So you just kind of want to keep getting on their level. And when they turn their back to you, try and make a game out of it. Stay animated, stay fun, stay enthusiastic.